Hi, hello, my name is Gomer Joseph. I hope we've all been having a great day so far. Welcome back to another True Crime Tuesdays video. If you are new, I welcome you. Today I'll be discussing the MacDonald family murders, which was a requested case by Lynn, who I thank for informing me about this case. This case is a small miniseries of mine called Did They Do It? As I was researching this case, I saw this to be eerily similar to the Watts family murders, where a man is imprisoned for killing his wife, daughters, and unborn son. Not only that, but this has to be one of the most confusing, complicated cases I've ever looked into. So I advise you to please do your own research when it comes to this case. I'm going to do my best, my absolute best, to make sure this case makes as much sense as possible. Here we go. In order to make this, in a sense, start from the beginning, I'm just going to go ahead and talk about Jeffrey first. So Jeffrey MacDonald was born on October 12th, 1943 in Queens, New York. He was the second of three children. His parents' names were Robert and Dorothy MacDonald, and Long Island was the place where he actually grew up. People describe Jeffrey as someone who was charming, charismatic, intelligent, got good grades at school. He was liked by many fellow students. They even voted him as the most popular and most likely to succeed. And as I go through this case, you'll understand how, they were pretty much right in their predictions. He longed to be a successful individual. Colette MacDonald, who would later marry Jeffrey, she was born as Colette Stevenson. She was born on May 10th, 1944 in Pitchogue, I believe, New York, to parents Edward and Mildred. Her parents did have other daughters, but the babies would unfortunately pass away at birth, I believe. She dated Jeffrey in high school. They had this on and again, off again relationship. They would see other people, but dated again once in college. She later would get pregnant in 1963, so they married after receiving the news of the pregnancy. So it seems like Jeffrey probably wanted to do right by Colette. Before having, a child of her own, Colette unfortunately lost her father Edward in 1955 because he killed himself, and she really took it hard. Her mother Mildred did remarry, but she could never bring herself to call her stepfather dad, and she did have dreams of becoming a teacher. On April 18th, 1964, Kimberly MacDonald was born. Colette would become a full-time mother while Jeffrey studied medicine at Northwestern Medical School, and the family did move to Chicago, Illinois. On May 8th, 1967, Kristen MacDonald was born. Jeffrey graduated a year later, then did internships, then joined the Army in 1969, which he was pretty good at. The family did move to Fort Bragg, North Carolina. What Colette didn't know was that despite all the picture-perfect stuff that she seemed to have seen in their family, despite how perfect her family looked, she was unaware that Jeffrey had been unfaithful to her multiple times. On February 17th, 1970, this was pretty much early in the morning. Jeffrey pretty much stated how this was, just like any other day when he made this his side of the story. So on February 17th, 1970, Colette was actually 4 months pregnant with her and Jeffrey's first son. Jeffrey claimed that night before was, again, a normal night. He fell asleep on the couch while reading a novel, then woke up early in the morning to Colette screaming, "Jeff, why are they doing this to me?" and Kimberly screaming for her father. The next moment, he claimed to have seen 4 figures standing over him: a black man, 2 white men, and a woman screaming, "Acid is groovy, kill the pigs." Then these 4 intruders were said to have attacked him, and Jeffrey did state how he fell down to the steps, which led to him being in the master bedroom. Then the next thing that he remembered was that he woke up to find the word pig written in blood on the bed. He noticed a knife in Colette's chest, which meant Colette unfortunately lost her life. He pulled it out, said to have been performing CPR, checked on the kids in their bedrooms, who unfortunately were killed as well. Then called the police, telling them that people are dying. Now the police arrived to find the house knife, a toothpick, and a 3-foot long piece of lumber outside the house door, which were the murder weapons. And back to the knife, like, I'm just thinking back to when he said that he pulled out a knife out of his wife's chest. Like, if you did it, like, why would you go all the way outside from your bedroom to put the knife out there? I'm not gonna go ahead and go that far. Y'all just go ahead and think what you need to think about this, because that's just really gonna make my head spin. Now, back to what I was saying. Inside, the police, when they went inside, they did find the girls' bodies and Jeffrey laying next to Colette. When investigators began to look into this, they found Jeffrey's story to be a bit sketchy, like how the living room had been pretty much undisturbed, a ton of blood, and Jeffrey's pajama fibers in the bedrooms. Yet when police arrived, Jeffrey told the police he didn't wear those pajamas in the bedrooms, but yet the police found the fibers. And a bloody footprint was in Kristen's bedroom, which matched Jeffrey's. Kristen's blood was also found on Jeffrey's glasses. Yet again, he claimed he didn't wear his glasses in Kristen's bedroom. Pretty much as time was passing by, investigators believed that Jeffrey grabbed his surgical gloves, started stabbing his family, made self-inflicted wounds, then started messing around with things a little in the house before calling the cops. One thing that completely baffles me is that the crime scene was absolutely completely open, with several people walking in and out of the house, contaminating the evidence. Soon enough, since police didn't believe the story Jeffrey stated, they charged him with the murders. Colette's family at first believed that Jeffrey was completely innocent. Since Colette's family was asking for some more information, a man stepped up and stated how he had a neighbor who fit the description of the woman Jeffrey was talking about, and her name, this person's neighbor, her name was Helena Stokely. Helena Stokely was said to have arrived back home in a blue Mustang at 4 a.m. the same morning Colette, Kimberly, and Kristen were unfortunately killed. She told her neighbors how she was present during the murders, how she only held candles and didn't have a hand in killing the MacDonalds. One of the people who said she was with was her boyfriend, Greg Mitchell, who really was instrumental, who she said was instrumental in killing the MacDonalds. Police did interview Helena, but from the information I gathered, they didn't take any notes, then released her, which is just so weird to me. And maybe y'all can make sense of this. Please let me know how to actually make sense of this. Soon enough, Jeffrey was exonerated, then moved to New York. So basically, this story did gain some form of national attention. Even Jeffrey went on the Dick Cavett show, and Colette's family, when they were watching this, felt like something was off while watching Jeffrey, because they pretty much saw their son-in-law basically celebrating and pretty much joking about his exoneration and how he was the victim and everything that went down. So after this interview on the Dick Cavett show, Colette's family slowly began to believe that Jeffrey was actually guilty of killing their daughter and grandchildren. Later on, Jeffrey would move to Long Beach, California, and became director of emergency medicine at the hospital he was working at over there, and lived an overall pretty much comfortable life. 9 years after the murders took place, and I can't understand why it took 9 years, but 9 years after the murders took place, the case was finally placed on trial. With a good amount of persuasion, Helena Stokely would go on the stand to testify in Jeffrey's defense. During the time she was testifying, she stated how she didn't remember anything about the night of the murder but taking drugs. And I actually did forget to tell y'all before I started mentioning Helena Stokely. She and, her posse were pretty much victims of, like, the mid to late 60s, early 70s. The best way to say it, how everybody was, like, so drugged up and, like, just taking all these drugs in the 60s and all these 70s. She was pretty much a victim of that and, of course got addicted. So basically, I don't know how to really make sense of this. Pretty much, I don't know, like, it just seemed like her stories would just be inconsistent, and her being addicted to drugs had something to do with that. What really didn't help the defense was allowing a certain video to be shown. Jeffrey was placed on hypnosis before the trial began to go over what happened the night of the murder. He was crying out for his family during the murder, but the prosecution questioned whether he was truly under hypnosis or not. Another blow to the defense were the gloves which were found the night of the murder, which actually belonged to Jeffrey. By the end of the trial, Jeffrey was found guilty of the murders. After Jeffrey's sentence, many confusing things would occur. Helena Stokely stated how during the time of the murders, she joined this cult, got involved with drugs, and the group she was with were keeping an eye on Jeffrey because he refused to give them drugs. So she and the group confronted Colette. She said that she and the group confronted Colette outside the school she attended, and someone who worked at the school stated how she witnessed this occur. Not only that, but there were other people who claimed to have seen Helena and the group the way that they were described the night of the murder. Later on, Greg Mitchell, who was Helena's boyfriend, would check into a rehab, telling people that he did kill the MacDonalds and had a tremendous amount of guilt. Yet when the FBI got word of this and questioned him, he stated how he was innocent. And once again, that is just very confusing. Like, why are you telling people that you are responsible for killing this woman and her kids, but yet, and you say to have had tremendous guilt, but yet when the authorities question you, you just want to go ahead and say that you had nothing to do with it? Like, that completely makes my head spin. Like, Greg, unfortunately, yes, he would later lose his life fighting in the Vietnam War. As for Helena, she would be found in her house dead due to a drug overdose. To this day, Jeffrey has claimed to be innocent. He's tried to get appeals, but as we can see, he is still in prison. But from what I've heard, like, in May of 2020, he's going to try to get another appeal, but, he's been in jail for, like, over 40 years. I doubt he's going to be able to get this appeal. And if you didn't think this case was confusing, awkward, and complicated already, Jeffrey was married to a woman named Catherine Courage. I believe that's how you say her former last name. He married this woman named Catherine, who was a teacher, back in August of 2002. To this day, I'm never going to understand why someone would marry a person who is spending a life sentence. But with what goes on in this world, I can honestly tell you that I am never surprised. What are your thoughts on this case? Do you believe that Jeffrey is guilty, or do you believe that he's innocent? Why do you think Helena and Greg would claim to have been involved with these crimes other than being as high as the moon? Please leave your thoughts in the comment section. Despite how complicated this case is, one fact still remains. Colette, Kimberly, and Kristen lost their lives way too soon in such a gruesome way for no good reason at all. Please believe me when I say I want to find out more about their personalities, but I could not find them. What I could find out about them was that they were loved and are dearly missed. From what I've gathered, all the evidence leads to Jeffrey. So if he is in fact guilty, I would hope that he would one day explain why he felt the need to kill his family. If there's a lesson to be learned from all of this, it's to be careful who you get involved with, who you get married to, and who you have kids with. By the end of 1 John chapter 3, verse 20, it states, God is greater than our hearts. He knoweth all things. Even though we don't know why this family was brutally killed, God knows and has already made sure the family would receive justice. I thank you all so much for taking the time in your day to watch this video. If you did like this video, I encourage you to hit the like button. If you'd like to go ahead and share your thoughts about this case, please leave your thoughts in the comment section. If you'd like to see more videos from me, please feel free to subscribe. And if there's actually any true crime case you'd like me to cover, please let me know. I'll see y'all next time for True Crime Tuesdays. I'll talk to y'all later.